On May 22nd, Maneater releases for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and it promises to deliver something that few games have ever delivered on: an open-world action RPG where you play as a shark, which is a combination of words most of us didn't think we'd ever say, but it's real, and you know what? It actually looks pretty fun. Leading up to its release in this feature, we'll be taking a look at some crucial pieces of information that you should know about this game. So without further ado, let's get started. Setup. Maneater sees players stepping into the shoes or fins of a young bull shark who was injured and disfigured in an accident that also saw its mother getting killed by a man called Scaly Pete, a notorious shark hunter. Fueled by a lust for revenge, the shark sets off on a quest to grow and evolve to the point where it can square off against Scaly Pete, and its antics catch the attention of a reality TV show called Shark Hunters vs. Maneaters. Interestingly enough, Maneater's story is presented through the lens of said TV show. Open world. One of the most interesting things about Maneater is that it's going to be set in an open world environment, which means players are going to have the freedom to wreak havoc as a shark as and when they want. More on that in just a bit. The world itself will be divided into a total of 7 unique environments, each of which will have its own unique biome and will be freely explorable. Environments. So what can players expect out of each environment? Maneater is promising a fair amount of environmental diversity, from open oceans to swampy bayous to polluted waters of industrial areas to resort beaches, docks, golf courses, and much more. Players will be visiting a variety of unique locations throughout this game. Exploration. Maneater's open-world exploration will also be structured in interesting ways. Being an open-world game, it will, of course, give you the freedom to mess about in its sandbox, or water box in this case. But the developers have also suggested that there will be some Metroidvania-esque gating elements. You might run into roadblocks, blocking off optional areas in the world, and if you want, you'll be able to seek out optional caves and areas in the game, or take on activities to progress your shark to be able to get past those roadblocks. Combat. Combat in Maneater promises to be interesting. According to the developers, players will have to pay attention to enemies' attack patterns and choose their own attacks and movements accordingly. Combat will include several basic attacks, such as charging into foes, using the shark's tail, or siloing out of the water, while players will also be able to use environmental elements to their benefit, such as using swordfish as makeshift spears. Wreaking havoc. Of course, as a shark, you'll be able to make life miserable for humans, which is kind of the main draw of Maneater. This will range from activities like straight up eating humans and terrorizing them with your antics, to being a pain like destroying yachts, docks, and jet skis, and so on. Notoriety. Maneater also makes use of a wanted level system of sorts. While you will, of course, be able to wreak havoc along the coasts, but by doing so, you will also become more notorious, and as your notoriety increases, more bounty hunters and enemies like the Coast Guard will start becoming more aware of you. Oh, and speaking of bounty hunters. After you've hit a certain level of notoriety, more high-level bounty hunters will begin tracking you down, but 2 can play at that game, of course. If you wish, you can track down and kill these special bounty hunters yourself. There are 10 main named bounty hunters in Maneater, and killing them will yield unique rewards, so seek them out if you want to grow into a veritable killing machine. Apex predators. Humans won't be the only threat in Maneater. Other than human enemies, players will also be able to fight against other aquatic wildlife, which will include giant squids, killer whales, other sharks, alligators, and more. Interestingly enough, each open-world section will also have its own apex predator, which players will then be able to take on in boss fights after consuming a certain number of other wildlife creatures in that specific region. Attributes. Maneater is, as we've mentioned, an action RPG, so what exactly are the RPG mechanics players will be engaging with? Well, there's quite a few of those. For starters, the shark will have 5 attributes in total: ferocity, perception, endurance, vitality, and agility. With each attribute affects different aspects of gameplay, and players will be choosing which ones to invest in. Attributes, however, will also play into other upgrades that define how your shark evolves, which brings us to our next point. Evolution. Upgrading shark evolution is going to be an important part of progression in Maneater, for which the shark will have to feed on other aquatic wildlife to get nutrients and rare mutagenics. Earning more nutrients allows the shark to unlock more upgrades, grow in size, and in turn equip more upgrades. These upgrades can include things such as tail whip attack, a bite attack that inflicts bleeding wounds, electromagnetic spikes, external bone plates, and more. Additionally, which attributes you have invested in will also determine which upgrades you can unlock, so it definitely seems like there will be a lot of decisions involved in how you want your shark to progress. No survival mechanics. Though chomping on other wildlife and humans will of course be a central mechanic, you don't have to worry about any survival mechanics that present hunger requirements or anything like that. The developers have made it very clear that there are no hunger mechanics at play, so while eating other wildlife to earn nutrients will be required at time for progression, you won't have to do so to simply stay alive. No permadeath. Something else that developers have confirmed to not be featured in Maneater is a permadeath mechanic. During an interview with WCCF Tech, Tripwire Interactive CEO John Gibson said that though that was something that developers toyed with early in development, they ultimately didn't feel it suited the game's structure. Given Maneater's focus on an open-world structure and long-form progression mechanics, that does make a lot of sense. Xbox One X and PS4 Pro enhancements. Like most games that are released these days, Maneater will be leveraging the more powerful hardware of the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X to deliver enhanced visuals. While the developers have not yet confirmed all of the specifics of what these enhancements will be, one thing that has been confirmed is that it will run at a 4K resolution for both consoles. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.